Good morning, and I will now call the May 25th, 2022 regular meeting to order. Let me ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Before I call the roll, I'd like to note for the record that Supervisor Anderson is unable to attend today's meeting due to illness. In addition, Supervisor Lawson Reamer is participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be handled by a roll call vote. With that, I'll now call the roll. Supervisor Lawson Reamer. Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Here. Sorry, it's on mute. Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Vice Chair Vargas.
Vargas here.
Chair Fletcher.
Fletcher here. First on the agenda is non-agendized public communication. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on matters that are within our jurisdiction but are not on today's agenda. As a reminder, the only action the board may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. According to Rule 4A, members of the public who are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will be allotted extra time to facilitate translation. Also, a reminder, according to the rules of procedure, we will hear up to 10 speakers, 5 in person and 5 virtually. Any remaining non-agendized public speakers will be heard at the conclusion of our agenda today. May I ask the clerk to call forward non-agendized public speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 14 requests to speak on matters not listed on today's agenda, 2 in person and 12 by phone. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it's your turn to speak. You have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to invite forward Audra and Michael Brando. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record.
It's not about any of that. So we create
Michael. Nathan, I'm going to play something and then hopefully
So we create these little sideshow arguments.
I won't be interrupted.
The World Economic Forum.
It all ties to a point.
So we create these little sideshow arguments. It's about the World Economic Forum. Give me a break. That's a meeting, not a movement. Do that. I went to a meeting. It's not about any of that. So we create these little sideshow arguments. It's about the World Economic Forum. Give me a break. That's a meeting, not a movement.
All animals, including humans, are not individuals. They don't have souls. They don't have any essence. They don't have any inner core. They are basically a collection of biochemical algorithms. And if you peel all the layers, all the systems that make up an animal, an organism, like an onion, you peel one layer after the other, one layer after the other, in the end, you won't get an inner core of light or a soul. You will get nothing. There is just nothing left. When you take out all these different biochemical algorithms, nothing is left. There is no individual.
Nathan, those were your comments when you were trying to redefine man as woman on May 10th, and then you made the sideshow comment that the World Economic Forum is not a movement. Why do you lie? Why do you lie consistently? You're the most transparent up there because people can see through you, and we're watching.
Audra, so much truth in that. I almost thought you guys weren't going to show up. I thought maybe I could sit in Nathan's spot, but that's okay. Didn't bring my gavel today. I would like to do a shout out to Truth and say thank you for always bringing truth to these meetings. And if you ever want to reach out to me, I would love to have you on my radio show. So if we can make that happen, that'd be great. Anyway, and I would like to define a Karen man, and that's a Kevin. Anyway, I just wanted to let people know that we don't have to listen to all the things that this board tries to, make us do. The constructs that they build up around us is an illusion, and we're actually free people. We just have to step into that and understand that we don't have to let them affect our lives the way that they think that they are with all the things that they want to implement. If we understand that we're free people, then we don't have to abide by all of their rules and regulations that they put down. I mean, if they're not going to do it, why should the people? These people work for us. It's fact. And so therefore, we are above the government, the people are, and the people just need to believe that and know that nothing that they do is going to affect us unless we allow it to. But we still have to pay attention because everything that they want to do is seemingly affecting our lives. But all we have to do is walk into the freedom that God gave us. These constructs they build up around us are not for the people. They're basically building themselves into a box. And we're free people if you just understand that. And yeah, God bless.
We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. Again, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd remind callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. Andrew Potter is with us remotely to assist us with the process. We'll begin with our first caller.
Hi, good morning. My name is Noemi. I'm from District 1. I'm with the Anthony Tremillo for Governor campaign. I just want to remind you that Nathan's father was a compulsive liar. That is why his marriage ended. And you either become a survivor or you become an abuser. And this is exactly what's happening with Nathan. He's become such an abuser to people in San Diego, and it needs to end. You know, I grew up in City Heights with a huge diverse of people. My best friend was Black. My first best friend was Black, and I knew so many people around there. And with his ugly, divisive stuff with the GOP, saying something about the GOP, I'm not funded by GOP. I've never been paid for anything. So it's crazy that he's out there lying again, saying these ugly, divisive stuff and saying that Jim is the dumbest, the dumbest statement that he's ever made, when in fact he is, quite frankly, the dumbest supervisor that has ever existed in San Diego, by far. I am not even joking. This is ridiculous. That we're even fighting for our rights. This is crazy. And seriously, hearing all the hatred that Gavin Newsom is saying about what's going on is truly disgusting. I denounce the hate that comes from that side, because you guys are creating these issues and these mentally disturbed people, and then you sit and say, oh, let's blame it on someone. Let's blame it on a party. Take responsibility for what you do. Maybe we will move somewhere with that type of mentality, because with this type of democratic, divisive rhetoric that we constantly keep hearing and malicious attacks on several people, this is what you get. You get a community or people that want to, you know, be divided that way. But it's actually doing the opposite. We're
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. This is KB Strange. I'm a pharmacist. I practice in the unincorporated area of District 5. I've been arguing against marijuana sales and cultivation in San Diego County because neighborhoods just don't improve with more marijuana businesses in them, just like neighborhoods don't improve with more liquor stores or head shops or smoke shops. Those of us working in the medical field understand the impact that smoking and vaping have for minorities and economically disadvantaged people, the impact of a high cost of tobacco and marijuana products, the impact of chronic health problems, and shortened lifespan. The marijuana industry is dominated by big corporations, including the tobacco company Altria, who, for example, spend millions of dollars to keep menthol cigarettes on the market because, again, marketing studies show that African-American smokers will purchase menthol-flavored products. Today and yesterday, public health educators and parents have been participating in a national virtual conference called Clear the Vapor 2022. It's sponsored by Parents Against Vaping. Youth vaping continues at epidemic levels, with many adolescents mistakenly vaping nicotine and marijuana to relieve their stress. This is especially troubling since studies are showing that nicotine and marijuana can increase stress as well as worsen symptoms of anxiety and depression. So in conclusion this morning, let me share with you the main recommendation from this conference, which is for local and state policies to ban flavored marijuana and ban flavored nicotine products. Make no mistake, it's the flavors which are the drivers for teen vaping. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning. This is Kelly McCormick. I'm a parent and a resident of District 3. I would like to thank the board and recognize them for allocating money for the mobile crisis response teams. As the mental health crisis continues to grow and as drug addiction and the fentanyl crisis continue to spiral out of control, this has become an increased problem for individuals and the communities in which they live. In last week's county budget webinar held by Tara Lawson-Remer, we were told that fentanyl and meth use was evident in our jail system, and that additional money was being allocated for medically assisted treatment. Elsewhere in budget summaries, I see that $16 million is allocated for harm reduction services to address the opioid and fentanyl crisis. At the same time, the county is expanding the influence of the marijuana industry, which markets high THC concentrates linked to a number of mental health harms, including cannabis-induced psychosis. At the same time, also, there is no funding specifically for drug prevention efforts. Prevention is the #1 most effective strategy to reduce drug addiction and the most cost-effective. 90% of adults with substance use disorder begin using alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs before the age of 18. The earlier and heavier the use, the more likely a person is to develop later problems. Imagine if those people had never started using in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Diane Grace. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. I am a mother and grandmother, and I want to thank the board for adopting the tobacco retailer's licensee fee structure yesterday. I appreciated that Supervisor Fletcher acknowledged the high federal cost to deal with the impacts of tobacco, which he stated run $300 billion per year. Also, he asked the question, who benefits from tobacco sales? People who get cancer, lung, and heart disease? I don't think so, Fletcher answered. Tobacco retailers and big tobacco benefit profiting off addiction and dependency, and at the very same time can be said of the for-profit marijuana industry. Since Chair Fletcher has introduced the real issue of talking about the cost of tobacco on society, I would like to provide one small example of the cost of marijuana on society. Data from Colorado indicated recent annual tax revenues from marijuana sales were $240 million. However, annual marijuana-related hospitalization expenses are over $500 million. And it is just one of the small costs when you consider there are other costs involved too, leaving the public to pick up the deficit of a minimum of $300 million that year. Societal costs for which the public pays cannot be ignored for tobacco or marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Hold on.
For the next caller, Michael Hill. Please proceed.
Hello.
Hello, please proceed.
Yes, good morning. I'm Michael Hill, and as a father and a grandfather, I am concerned about the sale of the high THC potency marijuana products being sold in marijuana storefronts. These high THC potency marijuana products, often flavored, indisputably result in alarming rises in ER admissions, respiratory depression, heart problems, and mental health escalation that are very challenging to the medical and treatment communities. It would definitely be in the interest of citizens, especially youth, for the Board of Supervisors to update the municipal code and remove the sale of high concentrate THC flavored marijuana products that are found in vapes, edibles, and drinkables. This municipal code change could mirror the county's ban on flavored tobacco products. Primarily, consumers of flavored tobacco and marijuana products are under the age of 25. Last week, the CDC issued this caution, and I quote, "When you experience significant impairment, distress, suicidal ideation, and attempts, call emergency services immediately for ongoing problematic use of THC containing e-cigarettes or vaping products, such as short-term problems with attention, memory, or learning or anxiety, depression. Patients should seek evidence-based behavioral treatment and recovery services," end quote. This certainly demonstrates the value of banning high THC flavored marijuana products for youth marketplace. Thank you.
For the remaining callers that requested to speak on a matter not listed on the agenda, please hang up and call back at the conclusion of this session. Chair Fletcher, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning.
Next on our agenda is approval of the statement of proceedings minutes for the regular meeting of May 11th, 2022. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Let me ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you. Supervisor Lawson-Reber.
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond. Aye. Vice Chair Vargas. Chair Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye.
The motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
We'll now proceed with the formation of our consent calendar. Members of the public will be able to comment on the consent calendar after supervisors have had an opportunity to move any items from consent to discussion and make any comments that they would like to make. I'll begin first with Supervisor Lawson-Reber.
Nothing to pull. No comments.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Desmond.
Nothing to pull, no comments, and I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
All right, Vice Chair Vargas.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the motion, and just on item number 4, just wanted to say thank you for bringing this update forward. The importance of the MSCP in our county is critical for sustainability and climate goals because it protects native habitat and wildlife biodiversity for generations to come, and so our communities deserve this preservation, especially in environmental justice communities, and I'm really happy to see the locations in District 1, Otay Ranch Preserve, Tijuana River Valley, Otay Valley Regional Park, Sweetwater Regional Park, Dictionary Hill Preserve, and so I'm really proud that these preserves in my district and encourage our communities to go outdoors and visit them as well. So happy to second the motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, seconded by Vice Chair Vargas. Before we vote, let's hear from our public speakers on consent.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 4 total requests to speak on items on the consent calendar, 1 individual in person and 3 by phone. Any members of the public that requested to speak on the consent items by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speaker. I'd like to invite forward Audra. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Audra. So just want people to know you can step out of the matrix and into freedom anytime you want. So you want to say that you need to change, there's been change in pavement conditions from the cost caused by rising construction costs, declining state revenue and revenue from state gas tax funding, stemming or diminishing growth of fuel efficiency and zero emission vehicles. So you're basically saying there's a decrease in fuel sales that's causing this problem that you have to address. That's weird. So what happens when you go to all electric vehicles? Nobody's going to pay that tax. So is there going to be more issues? Like, you know, I thought that was actually helping things, obviously not. And the fact that you want to use these endangered species that you claim are endangered to take up the land and preserve it. I mean, we all know, Nathan, with the World Economic Forum, that you guys want us to own nothing and we'll be happy. That's exactly where we're being led. Like you're just like driving us right into that. It's crazy. But like the World Economic Forum is just a meeting. Yeah, and so you're doing this for butterflies. Butterflies. So they need a whole lot of land because why? It's more important than the people? I don't know. And then you think that, I mean, all of this is like helping with your climate action plan and will improve the air and water. Is it gonna? It's gonna improve the water that's already really crappy. And then you also said you don't even have the necessary contracts for preservation to provide the level of expertise. So I'm just like, more BS. Good job. You're making Klaus very happy.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd remind callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll begin with our first caller.
Hi, this is Asal Asley. I'm calling regarding agenda number 7 for Pinecrest. I see that there is a builder building affordable housing in that. Yeah.
Ma'am, the Pinecrest item is going to come up as a discussion item. It's agenda item 7. And so if you want to comment on Pinecrest.
I'm sorry, it said it's my turn, that's all.
Yeah, no, we definitely want to hear from you. We just want to hear from you when we get to that item. So if you just hang on a few minutes.
No worries.
Agenda item 7, we will come back to you and give you your full time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
It's truth. Item 1 says that revenues from the gas tax decreased because of more fuel-efficient cars and electric cars. What a load of crap. Even with higher prices, people are still buying fuel and paying ridiculously high taxes on it. The Department of Public Works estimates it will receive about $51 million next year in road maintenance and rehabilitation account revenues. That's more money than last year, liars, not less. Item 3, the federal government, via the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, is offering a $650,000 grant to once again scoop up more land from the public. At least this time, the excuse is for butterflies instead of rats and toads like last land use meeting. There's plenty of different types of butterflies without government help. Maybe you people in the Stack and Pack mobility hubs have never seen a butterfly, and that's why you believe they need human conserving. This plan will cost over $700,000. Item 4, the South County Sub-Area Conservation Plan will acquire about 100,000 acres of land. The item says it would create opportunities for residents and visitors to connect with nature, but only they decide if the species and habitat wouldn't be impacted by your connection. So maybe they might let you connect with nature, but you certainly won't be allowed to fully enjoy it as nature intended. About $221 million has been spent on land acquisition so far, using 85 different excuses of species. Item 5, the consultants hired for the Department of Parks and Rec and the Planning and Development Services are not very skilled at keeping projects within a reasonable budget. On May 10th, we heard about for $5 million, only 3 community gardens would be built. I said let the contract expire and find somebody else who understands the value of our dwindling dollars.
Chair Fletcher, that concludes public comment on the items on the consent calendar.
All right, thank you. We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, seconded by Vice Chair Vargas to approve the five items on the consent calendar. Let me ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Chair Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye.
The motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
We're going to go to agenda item number 6, our first discussion item. This is to set a hearing for June 15th to confirm fiscal year 22-23 levies In the Street Lighting District and Landscaping Maintenance District, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by myself, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Let me ask the clerk to call forward the speakers on item 6.
We have one request to speak on this item in opposition. Audra?
Audra, again, do we not pay enough property taxes that you're going to have to charge people more to do things that you want to do? And I mean, the Julian Jess Martin Park, nobody approved that increase. So I mean, I'm pretty sure none of these people are going to be approving of, you know, fee increases when we already pay property tax. I thought we were supposed to own our homes. Do we not? Is that not how it works? We just keep paying more and more money for stuff that you guys, I mean, it's like God's land. But here we are just, you know, taxing the people for all these things that they already pay property tax for. No wonder nobody can own a home, right? It's weird, super weird. Or is it not? Because that's what you guys want, right? We shouldn't own anything because then we have to be under the thumb of the government. It's great. That's fun. You'll be on that side one day because you're not always going to have the power that you have now because you abuse it. You abuse your authority. You realize that, right? Of course you do. You got your gavel, right? But everything that you're doing is in line with the World Economic Forum, Nathan, and you claim that's just a meeting. It's seriously a movement. I mean, have you not read Klaus Schwab's book, The Great Reset? You don't even think that's weird? That these things actually exist and you want to sit here and pretend that that's not what you're doing? Because that's what's happening. And the people aren't going to put up with it. I mean, that's why you guys want to take our guns. So then, oh my gosh, we can't protect ourselves. It's a huge mistake.
Chair Fletcher, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Chair. I want to commend the Department of Public Works for their retrofit efforts for the lights under the street lights under county responsibility by changing out 6,876 light bulbs to LED lights. The assessment rate is actually being lowered from $7 per household to $2 per household. So I think it's a great move, and I'm glad we didn't just keep collecting the fees, but we adjusted them down accordingly. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Desmond. We have a motion by myself, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Not seeing any additional requests to speak. Let me ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you. Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas?
Vargas, aye.
Chair Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
Motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
We're going to go to agenda item 7, notice public hearing, Pinecrest Avenue General Plan Clean Update. We're going to turn it over to staff for a presentation, but just so we all know and everyone's aware, today's action is just to ensure that we have consistency between the general plan, land use designation, and the zoning. There is an inconsistency in this area. We are not considering adopting any project today. There is nothing before us today. We know there's a number of constraints associated with these lands. All we are going to do today is, as a board, is consider resetting the zoning to match the general plan, or to bring those two in consistence for what the maximum number of housing units that could be built, absent any potential density bonus, would be on this project. So that is what we will be doing today. And with that, let me turn it over to staff for their presentation, and then we'll hear from our public speakers.
Good morning, Chair Fletcher and members of the board. I'm Ashley Smith. Today, Nathan Kling and I will be presenting on item 7, the Pinecrest Avenue General Plan Cleanup. Today's item proposes to fix a mapping inconsistency that occurred during the 2011 General Plan Update, which affects 5 parcels on Pinecrest Avenue in the North County Metropolitan Subregional Plan area near the city of Escondido. This mapping inconsistency affected 5 parcels near the 9th Avenue exit from Interstate 15 in North County. The 5 parcels are located within a county island in the city of Escondido. A county island is a portion of unincorporated land under the jurisdiction of the county surrounded by an incorporated city. The county's island is surrounded by a suburban neighborhood with commercial development adjacent to the north. Within this county island, 4 parcels are developed with single-family homes and 1 parcel is vacant. The 5 parcels are all accessed by a single road, Pinecrest Avenue. Currently, there are conflicting regulations that have made it unclear what kind of development should be allowed on these 5 parcels in the county island. The county's general plan allows for multifamily housing at a density of up to 15 dwelling units per acre. However, the zoning restricts future development to only 1 single-family home on each parcel. The board's action today will clarify what kind of housing is allowed on these 5 parcels to provide a path for future development to move forward. The mapping inconsistency occurred in 2011 when the county's general plan was updated to provide a framework for future growth and development in the unincorporated area. The general plan determines what development is allowed on a property, including the type of use, such as housing or commercial development, the number of housing units, and development intensity permitted. The county's zoning was also updated to help implement the goals of the general plan. The zoning provides specific direction on how a parcel can be developed, such as the types of buildings allowed, maximum building heights, and where buildings can be located. The general plan and zoning are required to be consistent with one another. In some instances, however, errors occurred when parcels of land were given general plan designation and zoning that allowed for different types of development. The county uses the general plan cleanup process to amend these inconsistencies as they are identified during the land use planning process. During the general plan update, the number of dwelling units allowed on these 5 parcels was increased due to their proximity to jobs and services. In particular, the site is within 1 mile of the Escondido Transit Center and is near a commercial hub with job opportunities and other existing services. The density of these parcels was increased from 2 dwellings per acre to 15 dwellings per acre, which allowed for multifamily housing. However, the zoning was not changed to match the updated general plan. As a result, the zoning still limits development on these parcels to a total of 7 single-family homes. Today's action proposes to resolve the inconsistency between the zoning and general plan by amending them to allow for the same type of development on the 5 parcels. No development project is proposed at this time. Today's action will clarify what kind of housing is allowed on these 5 parcels. Staff has prepared multiple options for the board to consider, ranging from 1 single-family home per acre to multifamily housing at 15 dwelling units per acre. Staff conducted analyses for areas like fire safety, traffic, environmental health and quality, the availability of public services like sewer, and consistency with the existing community character. If a future development project is submitted on this site, the project would be required to resolve these issues identified in these areas before moving forward. Staff conducted a review to see how different housing types would be consistent with fire safety standards. While the site is not within an area designated for high fire risk, known as high or very high fire severity zones, there are issues with the site related to access for fire safety. The parcels are all accessed by Pinecrest Avenue, which has only 1 outlet. The state fire code does not allow development with only 1 exit route when it exceeds a certain distance, known as dead-end road length. The Escondido Fire Department, which provides fire protection to this area, recommends that the zoning not be changed to plan for multifamily housing or a development of multiple homes because the site currently exceeds the permitted road length. While the 5 parcels currently exceed the permitted road length, a future project for more than a single-family home would be required to construct an additional exit for fire safety before moving forward, which is a typical requirement for a development project.
Staff reviewed the 5 parcels to see if they are in a VMT-efficient area, which is a location with an estimated rate of vehicle miles traveled per resident that is less than the regional average. Staff also looked to see if the parcels are within the infill areas that were directed by the board in February, which are areas with high population density, number of road intersections, and are close to jobs and transit. County staff's analysis found that the site is not within a VMT-efficient area or an infill area identified by the board. The site is approximately 1/4 mile from a VMT-efficient area shown in green on the map. However, the site is within one of the mobility hubs identified in the San Diego Association of Governments Regional Transportation Plan. Mobility hubs are areas near major residential and job centers and are planned for different travel options like walking, biking, transit, and shared mobility. As part of the Phase 2 efforts on VMT, staff will evaluate the Pinecrest site and other similar areas located within mobility hubs to determine if VMT mitigation is required for future projects, or if future projects can move forward without VMT analysis or mitigation due to their proximity to future transit. Until Phase 2 is completed, projects would have to do VMT analysis and identify mitigation, like constructing sidewalks and bike lanes, which may not be enough to fully mitigate VMT impacts. The county is also in the process of developing a VMT mitigation program, which is also included in the Phase 2 effort. An applicant would also have to propose a project, or an applicant could also propose a project that would not have to do any VMT analysis or mitigation, such as a small housing development or a project that is 100% affordable housing. Staff also studied whether the existing roads could support traffic generated by future development without impacts to traffic flow and safety. The analysis found that the increase in traffic under any of the options would not exceed the road capacity of the northerly public portion of Pinecrest Avenue. However, the southern portion of Pinecrest Avenue, which is a private road, currently varies in width from 18 feet to 30 feet. The road would likely need to be widened to 30 feet if a project were proposed. Staff's analysis found that a future development on the 5 parcels could impact traffic flow at a nearby intersection that is within the city of Escondido. The left turn from Pinecrest Avenue onto 9th Avenue currently has long wait times. Additional traffic on Pinecrest Avenue would likely impact the wait times and traffic at the intersection. While a small increase in traffic may not make a noticeable impact, a larger increase could impact traffic flow if improvements aren't made to the intersection. For example, a traffic light may be needed at the intersection to help with traffic flow. As this intersection is within the city of Escondido, county staff would coordinate with the city to determine if any improvements would be required as part of a future project. Staff also conducted research to see whether the 5 parcels have the necessary public services to support future housing. The parcels currently do not have sewer service and may not be able to connect to the city of Escondido's sewer line in Pinecrest Avenue due to the topography of the street. The city has indicated that the parcels could connect to the sewer line on 15th Avenue to the east, but the parcel would likely be required to be annexed into the city's jurisdiction. Extending the sewer service from 15th Avenue would also require obtaining easement rights from adjacent property owners. Ultimately, it would be the applicant's responsibility to obtain a sewer agreement with the city before a project could move forward. If the site cannot connect to the city's sewer, future development would require a septic system. The use of a septic system is expected to limit the number of homes that could be built on the vacant property to approximately 7 dwellings. The environmental justice element of the county's general plan states that the construction of new homes within 500 feet of a freeway should be avoided where possible to prevent future residents from being exposed to air pollution. This is consistent with guidance from the California Air Resources Board. All 5 parcels are within 500 feet of Interstate 15. Due to this proximity to the freeway, future residential developments would be required to prepare a health risk analysis to determine if residents would be exposed to levels of air pollution that could cause health effects. The applicant would be required to reduce future residents' exposure to air pollution through mitigation, like installing high-efficiency air filters on all ventilation systems, constructing solid barriers, or installing landscaping adjacent to the freeway. Staff reviewed how future development under each of the options would compare to the existing community in terms of density, scale, and building types. Shown here are aerial images and photographs of the community and the commercial development near Pinecrest Avenue. This area is primarily suburban, consisting of 1- and 2-story single-family homes with densities ranging from 1 home per acre to 3 homes per acre. The county's general plan currently allows for 15 dwellings per acre, which is a density approximately 4 to 5 times greater than the existing community. Along with the suburban neighborhood, there is a commercial development to the northeast of the site, which includes office buildings and car dealerships. The 5 options presented allow the board to retain the density planned in the 2011 general plan or to select a lower density similar to the existing community. Staff prepared 5 options for the board to consider to resolve the inconsistency. Option 1 would keep the current zoning and amend the general plan to limit density to 1 house per acre, for a maximum of 7 dwellings across the 5 parcels. Option 2 would also keep the current zoning and would amend the general plan to allow for a density of 2 dwellings per acre for a maximum of 15 dwellings. Option 3 would amend the general plan density to 4.3 dwellings per acre for a maximum of 32 dwellings. Option 4 would amend the general plan to change the maximum density to 7.3 dwellings per acre for a maximum of 55 dwellings. This option would change the zoning to allow for multifamily housing. And option 5 would change the zoning to match the current general plan, which allows for 15 dwellings per acre. This would result in a maximum of 113 dwellings across the 5 parcels. This option would also allow for multifamily housing. PDS is recommending option 4. The explanation of the staff recommendation will be provided later in this presentation. Staff conducted public outreach to affected stakeholders and jurisdictions, including mailed notices and virtual and in-person meetings. A total of 22 written comments on the proposed options were received during the public review period. 19 of the comments were in opposition of any change to the zoning and requested that option 1 be adopted for the site. The comments in opposition concerned the absence of mailed noticing during the 2011 general plan update, impacts to traffic safety and flow, fire safety, and the feasibility of development. One comment received from the property owner of the vacant parcel was in favor of adopting option 5 for the site. The property owner stated that the criteria which led to the site being designated as VR15 during the 2011 general plan update should be used as the rationale to maintain the density. One comment was received after the public review period regarding concerns about planning future residential development adjacent to the freeway due to exposure to toxic air contaminants. On September 17, 2021, the Planning Commission considered the Pinecrest Avenue general plan cleanup. The Planning Commission voted on 2 motions, but neither passed with a majority vote. The Planning Commission voted to keep the maximum density on the site, as well as the staff recommendation to reduce the density, and both received 3 votes in support and 3 votes in opposition. As a result, the Planning Commission did not reach a consensus on what general plan and zoning should be adopted for the site, and did not approve any recommendation for this item. Based on the analysis conducted, staff recommends the board adopt option 4 and change the general plan to plan for 7.3 dwellings per acre and change the zoning to be consistent and allow for multifamily housing. Option 4 would reduce the number of units allowed on the 5 parcels from a maximum of 113 homes to a maximum of 55 homes. The staff recommendation achieves multiple goals identified in the county's general plan, including planning for housing in an area near the Escondido Transit Center and commercial uses at the intersection of I-15 and State Route 78. It directs development on sites where there are no sensitive environmental resources. It respects the community character by limiting density to a level only moderately greater than the existing neighborhood. And it plans for a level of development that is consistent with the site-specific characteristics that may limit the feasibility of future development at the current density, including the lack of public road access, lack of sewer service, and the exceedance of maximum road length for fire safety. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors take the following actions. Adopt the environmental findings, which include an addendum to the environmental impact report for the general plan, and adopt option 4 and amend the general plan to Village Residential 7.3 and change the zoning to variable family residential. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Supervisor Desmond, this is in your district. Do you want to make comments before or after public speakers? It's your, whatever you prefer. After? Okay, perfect. All right, let's hear from our public speakers, and we'll come back for the board to discuss.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 13 total requests to speak on this item, 10 in person and 3 by phone. I'd also like to note for the record that we received 20 e-comments on this item, 16 in favor and 4 in opposition. We also received 1 individual who wanted to register their opinion in opposition but did not wish to speak. Any members of the public that requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, you're welcome to come forward and stand against the wall until it's your turn to speak. I'll begin with those in favor. I'd like to invite forward Bejan F. Tekari, Doug Logan, and Matthew Peterson. You can come forward in any order. When it's, you have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Bijan Eftekari. I'm the owner of the property, and I just want to board approve and the consistency between the general plan and the zoning. I'm a builder. I make homes, and I would love to make some homes in Escondido for the first time, and I will build affordable house for the people who cannot afford to. I hope I can make small homes for the young people, the young generation, so they can have the opportunity to have a house. I understand the concern about the Pinecrest, which is a narrow road. I understand that. And at the same time, if you look at the map, there is a vacant land on the south of my property, which has two access from, I believe, 13th Avenue and 15th Avenue. That vacant land belongs to a friend of mine, and he is waiting to see what will be approved. And based on that, then we're going to probably merge and build homes together. With that, I will have access from 13 and 15 and just keep the Pinecrest for an emergency exit. I understand that, which is a big concern for the people living there. I appreciate that. I respect that. But at the same time, I'm not trying to, destroy the way they are living. I am a family man. So definitely, I will try to get access from the south, which is 13 and 15. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If Matthew Peterson or Doug Logan would like to address the board, you're welcome to come forward at this time.
Good morning, supervisors, staff. My name is Doug Logan with Rancho Coastal Engineering. I've been providing engineering input and helping with design. We've been working on this project for about 3 years now. Anyway, we really just were looking like when the presentation was made to just make this consistent with the general plan. Obviously, there's a lot of design issues with these properties, so I think that will ultimately determine the number of units that can be provided. We've met with fire, we've met with DEH. We actually could design a septic system for quite a few units on this property, but again, it's an unusual shape, and with setbacks and roads and stormwater and all the things that we'll need, we don't know if we could ever get to that density anyway. But we think it should just be the VR15. That's what the board approved, back in 2011. And anyway, I just wanted to speak in support and just let you know we have looked at some designs, and we think we can get them to work. So, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Chair Fletcher and respected members of the Board of Supervisors, my name is Matthew Peterson with the law firm of Peterson & Price, representing Bijan Eftekari with regard to his 3.7 acres, which is the vacant parcel within these properties. We are here to support the staff recommended rezone, but we do not support the staff recommended 50% reduction in the general plan designation. 11 years ago, this board, not this exact same board, but a different board, adopted the VR15 land use recommendation. And at that time, there was lots of justification for it. And as you well know, there's lots of justification, maybe even more, for higher density now. But for some reason, the property wasn't rezoned. It was kept as a rural residential zone, which should have been corrected 11 years ago. State law mandates that zoning be consistent with the general plan designation. But the reasons back in 2011 are the same as they are today. There's no fire issue. Secondary access is feasible, as you've heard. Streets are adequate around the area. It's close to mass transit. It's close to shopping centers. There's public facilities in terms of water and sewer. As we indicated, septic can occur. We can also pump up to the sewer line if we needed to. There's all kinds of state and county policies regarding residential density and encouraging residential development in increased densities. There's no environmental constraints. So there's really no valid justification to reduce the density from what was done 11 years ago. Keep that density the same and simply rezone it to an appropriate zoning, which staff has identified in their staff report. So basically we're here. Staff did an excellent job in analyzing it, a real good staff report, but there's really no justification to reduce the density by 50%. The constraints on the site will determine how many units can be built, and we'll work with your staff. And
Thank you. We have 7 individual speakers in opposition. I'd like to invite forward Audra, Mary Hill, Richard Hill, Karina Cheka, Richard Inga, Julie Myers, and Steve Jacobs. If your name's been called, you can come forward in any order. Please stand against the wall until it's your turn to speak. You have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record.
Richard Hill. I need the pictures up. Don't start this until I get my pictures up. Let's take a real look here at Pinecrest instead of above the air. This is Pinecrest Avenue looking south from 9th Avenue. On the left side, there are no street improvements at all. On the right side, just asphalt. On the right side, there are privately owned sidewalks and private lights and curbs. Next picture, please. There are 5 driveways on Pinecrest Avenue that cantilever out into Pinecrest. We have had a car hit that and flip on its top. The width of that street is 28 feet, not what was presented before. Next picture, please. No handicap access to our private sidewalks. Here's some stones that have been stepped up to reach. Next picture. Just a home on Pinecrest. Next picture. Here's a typical sidewalk. The one on the right looks like a liability ready to happen. Next picture. Another sidewalk. The picture on the right is an example of our private street lights. They are not operated by the city. There's a switch in each home that operates that street light at night. That's our lighting. You can see a conduit going under the driveway there to carry water through. Next picture. Another home on Pinecrest. Next picture. Here is a challenging situation. This is the easement, private easement road they were talking about. Next picture. It starts narrowing, and this is the end on the right. Typically there's cars parked. This is the access to the area the planners are talking about. That seems a little bit strange. It's like building a subdivision in a rural part of San Diego and saying, well, someday our freeway will come out here and solve all these problems. But in the meantime, the problems don't exist. So thank you very much for your time, and have a good day.
I am Mary Hill, and I have lived on Pinecrest for 48 years. And some of you may not realize that the freeway in Escondido was transplanted in the early 70s. The freeway that I-15 that you drive through, that is a transplanted freeway. That was transplanted in our backyard, so to speak. And when they were deciding where to put the freeway, they said to the residents on the west end of town, don't worry, we will be so sensitive to you people living on that west side. We will knock ourselves out to remember you and keep that a family-friendly neighborhood. Well, right now, they are not doing that. If they think they can build 15 homes per acre on that land. Plus, that means that those 4 lovely homes that are on Pinecrest that are in the city of Escondido, they're in Escondido, but they're county, those could be ripped down and apartment buildings could be put. We've got this beautiful street that is kind of rural-ish, and it's really a nice place to live, and we feel it's going to be destroyed if we get apartments or condominiums down the way, and that we just get traffic, all, you can imagine if 15 homes per acre were built, you can imagine how that would impact us residents. So
Thank you.
I'm asking you to vote for option 1 or 2, please.
Next speaker, please.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Dr. Lorena Checa, and I am the person, along with my husband, who lives over on 1220 Pinecrest. That picture you saw at the end, where on the plans, it's planned that it's going to be expanded. Now, 8 years ago, we bought this house because of the California State University, San Marcos. I just retired as the Vice President of Student Affairs. We bought that property because it was quiet, it was easy access to campus, and I retired to take care of my dad. My dad's in a wheelchair. We just finished making that house ADA compliant. He strolls back and forth just to be there to live his days peacefully. So is that our plan as well for us to live peacefully. And now they're saying they're going to expand it by 30 feet, I think I heard. And I think it's easy to draw boxes on a plan, but the impact that it has on its community members, I ask you to please take a look at that and consider the impact. Pinecrest is a beautiful community, and by the way, for the record, it said it's not a high fire zone. It is. I only have one insurance company that covers us. I don't understand why from my front yard to there it's not. So I just wanted you to take a look at that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Should be here. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. How do you hide that?
Is it touchscreen? No. Is it not? Well, you can. There you go.
Thank you. You almost had it.
Oh, that's no. It's, F5.
Oh, I see what you did. Okay, we could do it that way.
It's, okay, it's only going to work up there.
Thank you for the opportunity today, San Diego Supervisors. My name is Julie Myers. I am the homeowner on the corner of Pinecrest and 9th Avenue. This is a video from my shared driveway with another homeowner. We total have 8 cars that share a driveway trying to exit out of onto 9th Avenue. My goal here today is to find a way to meet in the middle. We've been fighting this for the last couple of years. And this is an incorporated San Diego County land surrounded by the city of Escondido. And what I'd like to propose today is to vote for a middle ground, to vote in the middle, knowing that the city of Escondido, to provide any further development, will have to approve everything that goes forward. My hope today is, originally we were zoned as SR1 in 2011 when that change was made. None of us were notified of that change. Today, I'd like to propose voting for a middle ground with VR 4.3 as option 3 as today's decision, in hopes moving forward it will provide several types of housing that will work in that area. When it comes to the corner of our street, you can see it clear. Oh my goodness, I'm out of time. Okay, so, bummer. Escondido's done a great job with RENA in urban areas. This is not an urban area. There are fire, Escondido does classify this as high fire ratings. I have it on a slide that you do have access to if you'd like to see that. The goal today is, thank you very much for your time.
Just real quick, Chair. I want to, I was going to point something.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I can put it back up.
Oh, I don't want to wait 20 minutes.
Let's see if we can pull it back up real quick. Can you help her?
In the meantime, I wanted to disclose that I visited the site on Friday. I went and visited about 4:30 on Friday afternoon.
Did you go to sleep?
Uh-oh. All right, you got to tell us all your password.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, the site, if you're on the lower picture on the bottom right-hand side, is the actual site at the end of the road. And if you notice where the freeway is and where that site is and the steepness of the, because I noticed that wasn't brought up in any of the other pictures. So where that brown grass is on the right.
So it's to the right of the road.
Yeah, it's at brown grass on the main site that slopes all the way down to the freeway.
Okay.
That's the open parcel.
Got it.
This time. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Richard Enga. I live at 1240 Pinecrest Avenue, which my family has owned since 1973. From what you've heard today from both the staff as well as the residents of Pinecrest, it appears obvious that development of multifamily residences on this property is both impractical and uneconomical, due not only to the infrastructure and environmental requirements which will be imposed on the development, but also because of multifamily development would be completely out of character with the neighborhood. To make matters worse, the board is being asked here today to rezone 4 existing properties on Pinecrest Avenue, which are already developed as single-family homes. This would allow these properties to be developed into apartment complexes at some point in the future, further negatively impacting the Pinecrest neighborhood. To me, the action the board should be taking today is not to change the zoning to be compatible with the land use designation, but rather change the land use designation to be compatible with the zoning. The land use designation was changed in 2011 without the knowledge or input of the Pinecrest residents. To now change the zoning to be compatible with the mistake made in 2011 is simply compounding the problem.
Hi, my name's Steve Jacobs. I am the owner of the property at 1109 Pinecrest Avenue, which is would be directly impacted by this project. We would lose part of our front yard. I know that's probably not important to you folks, the county board, but it definitely is important to us. We've been there almost 17 years. And the way I see it is I agree with the previous speaker that we should we should meet the zoning requirement, match that, and not go with what this change was made 11 years ago, that none of us, and me including one of the owners, that would lose part of their property by this development. I understand that the county board is under a lot of pressure to provide affordable housing, and that definitely needs to happen. No question there at all. I just feel that there are many, many other much more appropriate sites. You know, the fire department's already stated that this is not a good match for a high development. The smog issue, as you can see, the proximity to the freeway. I understand that it is going to impact the neighborhood, but I know that that's not the priority here. The priority is to find affordable housing, and which is definitely needed. The city of Escondido has many, many locations that have direct access to transportation, to business, that are much more appropriate for this type of development. I think there's no question about that. There also was a statement made earlier that the transit center is within a mile of this street, and that is not true. If you Google it, you'll find it's 1.7 miles, so it's almost 2 miles away. So I'd like you to reconsider, and I think the option 3 makes the most sense. Definitely the land should be developed, I understand that, but not to add a couple of hundred more cars a day on this street. It just doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Audra, of course, you're going to pass probably the recommended number 4. But it really doesn't even make sense that you think that you can even develop on a piece of property that isn't a fire zone. Like, you're talking about getting people out of fire zones. I mean, how are people even going to get out in a timely manner? You can't even, I mean, all the things that need to be done in order for this to take place is quite astronomical. It seems like there's barriers being put up, and you're just thinking that you can hop over those because you want us to be in dense areas. Maybe if you didn't buy up all the land, you could use some of the land that you guys have purchased to, you know, save butterflies. But, I mean, these people live here, and they've shown you the condition of the street. So you add more cars, 100 more cars at least, and what's going to happen? I mean, that road is so narrow, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, the property's on a slope, and you want to, like, you can't have septic for more than 7 units. So how are you going to even get them sewer? Everything that takes place with this board is quite ridiculous because, I mean, you shouldn't be making us live or them live in a densely populated area when they moved out there for it to be a rural area. But that's your Agenda 2030, is to take up all the land and make sure that we're in a densely populated area, despite what people think and how they feel, but you guys aren't living there. And it's, you know, how are you, I mean, I don't know, I just think that you need to be listening to these people, which you never do, and make a right decision, because don't just do it based on, you know, who's in your pocket.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the 3 individuals that requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live stream before they begin speaking. We'll begin with our first caller.
Good morning. My name is William Placencia. I'm in favor of option 5. I feel like the more houses that are available to people, the better. Obviously, I'm not part of the planning or the design or anything, but I figured the people who own the property there, Mr. Bijan will, and his designers will figure out all the complications and barriers that are in the way. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Truth. Jim, mobility hubs, part of the SCF, see? So an error was made here on these 5 parcels, but somebody thought they could go ahead and shove a bunch of multifamily housing units in the Pinecrest Avenue area anyway. It would be great to have the proper zoning respected for single-family homes and agriculture on large lots, as it should be. But the resulting choice by these supervisors of either 1 dwelling per acre or up to 15 dwellings per acre is predictable. Here's a hint. There is no way they're choosing option 1 of keeping the Pinecrest area as zoned for rural residential of single-family homes. Look at that horrible option 5 of up to 113 multifamily homes on an area originally zoned for a maximum of 7 homes. The Planning Commission wants up to 55 multifamily units. They don't care that there's already single-family homes there or that there'll be more traffic, or even what the neighborhood wants. We're seeing the sustainability cult's goal of extreme densification everywhere. Even historic homes in neighborhoods like North Park and Hillcrest are being torn down and replaced with 2 to 4 story sustainable slate gray eyesores. The only purpose is to remove as much land off the real estate market for single-family homes in order to implement major aspects of the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda 21 plan, including pushing people into what Sandag calls mobility hubs. Anyone wondering what this densification is about, please look into Sandag's regional plan as well as the county's regional decarbonization framework. Both of those plans aim to do everything possible to make it impossible for people to live in suburbs and especially in rural areas. And of course, the builder Bijan wants more homes zoned. It makes him more money.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Hello, this is Asal Adli. I want to say thank you for the board for all you're doing. I really appreciate it. And I am completely in favor of this program. And let me tell you why from a younger generation. It is amazing that people have been living in the streets since the 70s, and I respect that, and I think it's wonderful. But just put yourself in our shoes when you were 20-something, 30-something, trying to purchase a home, and the prices were so astronomical that you could never reach your goal. Just look at this project and see the benefits of it, just instead of everything that is negative. I'm sure the builders will take a look at the fire situation. The city will never allow an unsafe building to be in place. So I just don't understand the opposition. And I just want everybody to look at younger generation. I've been trying to purchase a home in San Diego for the past 4 years. I am forced to live with family just because the rents are so high and there is nothing on the market for me to purchase. So I'm completely in favor, and I hope that the board will make the right decision. Thank you so much.
Chair Fletcher, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers. Let's go first, Supervisor Desmond. This is in your district, and we'll hear your thoughts. And then I think Supervisor Wasserreimer has a couple of questions for staff. We'll start with you, Supervisor.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate all the work that's gone on developing and for PDS and all the hard work that's gone into this. Is what 11 years ago this problem happened, and we're getting this cleaned up. So thank you very much. And I did say I went out to this site last Friday afternoon to see it for myself, and I would love to see as many houses as we can possibly put in anywhere, but my stomach sort of dropped when I took a look at the view and how close this is to the freeway on that vacant lot. And from where I was standing up on top of the slope there, the road noise was deafening. It was just like, I don't even know if I could carry on a conversation with somebody just because it was 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, but it wasn't bumper to bumper, and it was just normal traffic going through. But it was pretty. I wouldn't want to live there myself, I guess, is the way I put it. It just, especially on that open parcel. So I'm sensitive to the fact that the property owner of the vacant parcels favors maintaining the current general plan designation of Village Residential 15. I have no doubt, and there's no doubt or a good reason, we're in the middle of a housing crisis, and we should be building housing everywhere that we possibly can. Even with staff's recommendation, though, option 4, where multifamily is an option, or is the option in option 4, and option 3, it's still single-family homes. I have to step back a bit, and I tend to agree with the folks in the surrounding community who argue that multifamily housing types are not consistent in the existing neighborhood, which is predominantly single-family residential. And so one of the ladies got up and spoke and said, let's make a compromise. That would be option 3. I don't agree with the 1 acre density either, going the other extreme. But I think we can achieve that more of a win-win with the existing community and the needs to address our housing shortages by selecting option 3 that staff is presenting today. It would allow for the greatest density of single-family housing on that property, 4.3 units per acre, which would put 16 housing units on that particular open site, 32 housing units, single-family homes on the total 5 acres, if that were to ever develop. There's many challenges with this site. I don't know if it's ever really going to get developed. Many challenges. I did hear from the owner that he was in favor of connecting from, I think it was 13th and 15th Streets, which I think is a good option. But it's very noisy. And on the environmental justice, do we really want to be putting all the affordable housing right next to a freeway? I know. I have multiple hats, but but all those, and Nate, thank you for all the mitigation you mentioned about the environmental justice, but all those, the venting and the windows, that's if you just stay inside your house and you never go outside. As soon as you step outside, you're breathing all that smog. And I'm all for affordable housing. I'm all for putting it as much housing as we can do. But right up against the freeway is a stretch. So I don't see this to be a shining example of a site where we're going to make the biggest impact of addressing our housing shortages. But every project helps. And I want to help solve the housing crisis as much as anyone. And in doing that, we should always, as every instance, use as much possible. But we have to be reasonable. We have to look at the existing community. Right up against a freeway is not the place to be. I think in life, balance is key. And I think the best balance here is option 3, single-family homes. Don't be putting multifamily, affordable housing or things like that right up against a freeway. So I'll make a motion to move option 3, which would change the general plan designation from Village Residential 15 to Village Residential 4.3, and the zoning of the rural residential to single-family residential. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond. I think what we're looking at here really demonstrates the challenges we face around housing, which is really easy to say we need more housing and we need more affordable housing. It gets awfully challenging when it comes to identifying a site and location to put it. Generally speaking, I'm a great proponent of multifamily unit dwellings. I think that's the only way we're going to tackle the affordability issue, which is getting more places for younger and smaller families. To have an opportunity to get into home ownership, to have an opportunity to get into a home. I do recognize, though, and understand the concerns with this site, and there's a lot of challenges here. I know the owner and your representatives are aware of the challenges of the absent a sewer connection. You're going to have a really hard time doing much of anything on this site. A sewer connection is not going to be cheap. A road connection is not going to be cheap. Even if you do a road connection on 13th or 15th, you're probably still going to have to do improvements to Pinecrest. And then you've got to overcome the air quality issues that are there present with the issue. And so as much as my heart is always in maximum density and multi-unit dwellings, I tend to agree the limitations on this site probably make that something that even if we were to vote for it today are unlikely to ever be realized. And would cause a lot of consternation and stress. And so I'm inclined, reluctantly, not out of disregard for the individuals who came here. I certainly understand where you all are coming from. My reluctance is just in general that, and I'm going to second Supervisor Desmond's motion, but I just want to highlight that we get a steady line of folks every day who say you got to build more housing, you got to build more housing, you got to build more housing. Until we find a site we can build more housing. And then it's always it doesn't fit here for whatever reason. I do think there are some valid reasons why high-density multi-unit dwellings will not be realistic here. And so because of that, I'm inclined to agree with Supervisor Desmond on this. But I think it really highlights the challenge we have as a board, and that everyone wants more housing, and it gets awfully challenging when it comes to actually siting it. But let me hear from Vice Chair Vargas.
Yes. And, it always, it always is interesting to hear that we all are fighting for affordable housing, just not in my backyard. And it doesn't also solve the air quality issues for the folks in that neighborhood. And so I think we need to figure out how we're going to address that as well. I'll support the motion because I think it's the right thing to do, but I think that in the end, we're going to have to figure out how to address the affordable housing issue for our communities, because I think we heard from the callers that, you know, many of the folks that are in that community have had the privilege and the pleasure of living in those homes for 20 years, 25 years, and that's fabulous and amazing, but so many of our folks in our communities don't have that privilege, even if they have been working for so many years, because they can't afford to buy a house or a home in San Diego County right now. And so I think it's our responsibility to try to think outside the box and how we're going to make that happen. So, you know, as we're looking at these opportunities, what else can we do to make sure that people do have these homes available? And then I think maybe as the Office of Environmental and Climate Justice is looking at opportunities, maybe that's one of the things that they can think about, where these homes are situated, where we have families that are living there, because we want to make sure that they're healthy and safe, and where there are homes close to the freeways. I've been thinking about how through CARB we can maybe get additional resources for air filters for communities. I mean, this is the communities of San Isidro and Barrio Logan are living this every day, what you're living right now, and you may not be feeling it right now, but you know, you're breathing the air of the freeways because you live near the freeway. And so that is going to impact you later. And however we can get those resources into our communities, I think it's important. And it's not just happening in the barrio, it's happening near your homes as well. So we'll continue to fight for those resources, and I'm happy to support that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Let's go to Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Thank you so much. First of all, I will be happy to support the motion of my colleagues to pursue option 3. I think just want to make a couple comments on my thinking behind this. Part of what I think is really important is acknowledging that it's not just more housing, but we need affordable housing. So, you know, when we're looking at increasing density, you know, I'd love to be able to create those incentives. And certainly in this case, those incentives are there, right? If the developer does decide to build affordable housing, they'll be able to avail themselves of density bonuses and be able to build additional housing. And I think that's just a piece of the policy toolkit that we need to keep in mind always, that it's not just about more homes that are out of reach for San Diegans, but it's about building homes that are affordable. And so our role at the county is to create the incentives to encourage our private sector developers to pursue more affordable housing developments. I think we just need to keep in mind that we could always get more housing that's not affordable, and that's not what we want. So again, I'll be supporting option 3, but just kind of as we continue moving forward with this weighing and balancing, to me, it's all about prioritizing housing affordability, not just housing at all costs. So thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Lawson-Remer. Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve recommendation 1, which is just adopt the environmental findings. And then on the range of options for the Pinecrest Avenue general plan cleanup options, for the board to adopt option 3, change the general plan designation to Village Residential 4.3. We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, seconded by myself. May I ask the clerk to please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas?
Vargas, aye.
Chair Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
The motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you to everyone who came out today to speak on this item. We will now resume non-agendized public communication. I'll ask the clerk to call forward our remaining non-agendized public speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 7 remaining speakers, all by phone. For those that are requested to speak via phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. When it's your turn to speak, you will be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd remind callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. Provided that they have called in, we will begin with our first caller.
My name is Kelly Gray, and my brother died on December 18th, 2021. Today, over 5 months after his death, we still don't know the cause of his death. As you can imagine, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to begin the process of closure when we still don't know how he died. Currently, the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office is 9 months behind on processing toxicology labs, meaning that people who died in August 2021 still have not had their bodily fluids processed, and therefore causes of death are still pending. Families have no answers. My brother's autopsy was completed within 72 hours after his death. His toxicology labs have still not been processed. Losing a loved one is hard enough, and people do not deserve to have their suffering compounded by the inhumane delays of the medical examiner's office. These delays are not related to COVID deaths. I spoke with the manager at the medical examiner's office, and she apologized and agreed with everything I had to say and told me that the board has been aware of these delays for over 2 years and has chosen to do nothing. The medical examiner's office processes all of the bodily fluids in an in-house lab, which is not what other counties and cities do. The lack of resources in the office is what's creating the bottleneck of toxicology results and the subsequent delays. Despite the office being well aware of these delays, families are now not allowed to take their bodily fluids to another lab until the county has finished running their tests. This is outrageous to me. These delays not only actively harm families, they also falsify statistics on causes of death in the county, lead to more deaths as a result of law enforcement investigation delays, and impede the district attorney in prosecuting cases around these suspected accidental overdose deaths. I am asking for the following: for the board to stop ignoring this issue, to use outside labs to process the backlog of bodily fluids just sitting in refrigerators, families being given the option to process bodily fluids outside the labs while this dysfunction continues, and to approve funds to give the medical examiner's office resources to reduce these delays. I understand that
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll now hear from the next caller.
Truth. To Eleanor, thanks yesterday. I've actually been enjoying your comments too. On the Land Use and Environment Group, they want the title of director to be changed to Chief Sustainability Officer, and they want the Office of Environmental and Climate Justice to be changed to the Office of Sustainability and Environmental Justice. I guess no more justice for the climate, now it's only for the environment. But the cult of sustainability above all. And I'm sure it's only a coincidence that the Department of Justice just launched their own Office of Environmental Justice. These supervisors took a year to choose their Chief Sustainability Officer, Shelby Rust-Busso. They had to be sure they had a good little tovarishch to lead San Diego County through their regional decarbonization framework. Shelby already ruined cities like Atlanta via the Clean Air Campaign, where they put up signs that said no idling for cars and gave children air creds. She also worked to implement the Eco District model in Midtown Atlanta. Eco District's board supports the socialist terrorist group Black Lives Matter. The office Shelby worked in was called One Atlanta. Basically, it's the same exact regional governance junk you'll be seeing here in San Diego under the Regional Decarbonization Plan. I imagine Shelby Rust-Busso will be a lot like Wilma Wooten, throwing around data-driven bullcrap numbers regurgitated from state agencies, who regurgitated it from federal agencies, who regurgitated it from various internationalist, world governance, totalitarian, control freak. Welcome aboard, Comrade Busso. Audra, you better use that line of punishment or I might have to steal it.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisor. Ann Riddle here, parent advocate. Yesterday, after the Board of Supervisors meeting where you adopted a fee schedule for the tobacco retail licensees, I attended, as it would happen, ironically, a seminar for parents and medical professionals, a national seminar, and it was entitled Youth in Crisis, the Connection Between Vaping, Nicotine and Marijuana and Mental Health Outcomes. The panel featured two main speakers, one from the CDC's Division of Adolescent and School Health, and the other from California San Francisco Center for Tobacco Control Research. And education. They felt it was important for all of us to have this information because of the prevalence of anxiety and depression among young people has doubled during the COVID pandemic. And in fact, we may remember that the Surgeon General issued an urgent public health message to us regarding that. This concern we have for the marketing to our young people regarding tobacco mirrors the very concern we have about the marijuana industry marketing to our young people and the physiological and mental results we have from the false messages that are being sent. So we appreciate, parents appreciate your efforts to put some limits on what's happening in the tobacco world, and we'd like to see that happen with marijuana as well. One of the movies shown yesterday as part of the seminar was It's Messing with Our Heads, and this was to deal with the false narratives about vaping, marijuana, and nicotine, and that somehow or another it provides emotional health benefit when it does just the reverse. We parents appreciate all you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Consuelo, we've adopted the whole eat, sleep, slave, stress routine. They tax the shit out of us. They have convinced us that we need them. They have lied, cheated, stolen, and they have killed. Yet we still bow down to their authority, asking for permission. They are not as many as we. They are the few. They are the elite. They are the evil. They will never win. One thing they cannot handle is a well-informed and armed society. I repeat, armed society. In reality, we don't need them. They need us. The spell is yet to be totally broken, but the lifting of the veil, el apocalipto, the great reveal, is happening as we speak. The once divided people will wake up to their division, especially with the division of flesh and spirit. The real enemy will be exposed, just as religion and the church does its followers. So does government. Government thrives on dependency. They get off on control and being tyrants. And we, the many, allow it. It is up to us to alter the course. We are who decides how this all ends.
Chair Fletcher, that concludes requests under public communication.
All right, that concludes the business before the board. I believe this is our last meeting before the primary on June 7th, so encourage we the people to cast your ballots and make your voice heard, and look forward to reconvening with all of you in the near future. We will recess into closed session. We will begin closed session at 10:45, so we have a 10-minute break here, and we'll adjourn into closed session. With that, our board meeting stands adjourned.
The board will now recess into closed session to consider those matters listed under item 28 on yesterday's agenda. If there are any reportable items, they will be reported out at the conclusion of closed session today. The next meeting of the Board of Supervisors will begin the budget hearing process, which will begin on Monday, June 13th, 2022 at 9 a.m., when the board will receive a presentation on the fiscal year's 2022-24 recommended operational plan and receive public testimony on all areas of the budget. A second budget hearing is also scheduled for Thursday, June 16th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m.